So, oh, okay. I'm having this attack where I'm not doing what I want to be doing, or I feel like I should be doing, because it seems like the mornings have this different representation to me, like this different feeling. It's like I'm not really. I feel unprepared, and I end up believing that I'm unprepared all day, or something like that. I mean, it's hard to put into words. It's very aggravating. And I think the scary part is when I feel this way, and I maybe it's that I let it go on. I don't know. There's no. I'm worried about this lack of consistency in my writing. I mean, I just want to get that out. I was making journals, cell phone journals, and all that good stuff on my walk, and I'm I'm talking about how Wellbutrin has really helped me. Wellbutrin has put has changed my life, and where there used to be this kind of aggravation and this aggravation and tension and neuroses, and it would inevitably blow up into me running from the apartment and just bracing something so I don't fall off the wagon on cigarettes, so I don't buy some tobacco product, and then I'm off at some bar and I'm smoking, and that got really old, and it's just like, oh, just feeling like being trapped. And when will you quit smoking? And when will it be right? And when will it happen? And finally, with Wellbutrin at the end of November, it did happen. I lost an interest in smoking. It really totally completely worked. And not only did Wellbutrin help me with smoking, it helped with that aggravation, that tension. But it's not that I don't feel it still, but it's so much different. It's so different. Like, it used to be something where I would just want to explode, and now it's something where I recognize it's there, and I can deal with it. I can live. I can sit, and I can relax, and I'm okay. But it's a sad situation when you can be writing and doing things on a consistent basis with your art, and you're not doing them. It's just a sad situation. I want to feel good about this, and now it's 3:47 in the afternoon, and Miguel called me, and I went over and I had something to eat with Miguel, and that's great. He's such a good guy, but I need to identify this thing inside of me, this thing that says, oh, well, oh, yeah, okay, well, let's check out the Cannes Film Festival. Oh, yeah, that. Well, yeah, we've got some time. We can do it later. I'm tired of it. I'm so sick. I'm so tired. I don't even know where to begin. And it all has to do with my self-doubts and I know it does. I know it must. I mean, it's painful. It's painful to write a screenplay and not believe in it. Now, that hasn't happened with Nights. It didn't happen with Nights, and it hasn't happened with United Flesh. It's not to say that United Flesh is perfect, but with the Loving Tenants, it was much different. With the Loving Tenants, it was like trying to force. I try to force these scenes out and these visualizations of the characters going through different scenarios, and some of them made sense and some of them were somewhat compelling, but most of it was just aggravating and, oh God, so puny, and then the complex, the fact that it took place in one apartment complex. My friend Sean always said, I don't like Country Club. I don't want to film a movie at Country Club, and I would give him a bad time about that, and I would say, well, we have this space, but while I've learned to appreciate my living environment, I've always had a respect for it and a love for it being my home. It's not very cinematic, and not that it can't be, but it was just so hard to buy that there was this elaborate story here at Country Club at Country Hub at Horbiburub. Um, at the golf course. So I was really turned off. I was completely turned off by the screenplay, and I would think about it. And I would go, oh, it's and I did get a certain amount of consistency going in writing it. But I need to consistently think of ways that I can bring inspiration and light and pure inspiration back into my writing. Instead of having this feeling of doubt and like, oh God, it's so much work and I can just do that later. Let's look at the Cannes Film Festival, and instead of that shit, I should be writing. You should be thinking of little scenes that are compelling, and you just put your mind to it. You brainstorm, you write, and you brainstorm. You brainstorm, and you brainstorm, and you write, and each in one sentence doesn't have to relate to the next sentence. It's just this absolute diarrhea of the mind, and then you come up with something golden. And when you come up with something golden, that's the essence of what you go on, and it's this, it becomes like a 3 to 5 page sequence that's really compelling. But and then of course there's that little component where when you were a kid, you were always compelled to write. You looked forward to writing. You looked forward to sitting down and just writing and writing and writing. And of course as an adult, there's that adult element where you go, well, we have to take things a little bit more seriously. We can't just write. And you kind of do that just organically, naturally. You just go, there has to be a little bit more structure. It has to, and then I think it really, just that thought in general, I think is corrosive and totally fucking, I think it's corrosive, and I think it's, I gotta watch my language. Corrosive and unfortunate, because it insinuates that you hold a truth that you have to write in a certain way, and there's no negotiating that this is the structure that you have to abide by, or something, something like that. And it doesn't sit well with you. It's like a virus. It's more than a virus. It's like the plague for writers. It's like writer's death, artist's death. I mean, no. How many? God, when you paint, it should be like how you should feel like you feel when you paint, and you should feel like you feel when you sat down to write when you were 9, 10 years old, 13, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15. You were compelled, and you went for it, and it was magic. And there has to be a collaboration. There has to be a comfort with yourself in that process. You were remembering Down on Willow, and you were remembering what that was like. You remember, being proud of writing Down on Willow, and Down on Willow writing Down on Willow wasn't much different from you writing your novellas, your novellas as a kid, and Town Trouble being the one that I'm most proud of, but there was a flow to it. You wrote, and it did quickly dawn on you during that process, your first screenplay, that when things go bad in a screenplay, it's much different than when they go bad in writing long form in a novel. I think there are some brilliant novels out there that can go on for 5, 10, 15, well, hopefully not 15 pages, but 5 or so, 10 pages, and it's very contemplative, and the writer kind of doesn't lose out or doesn't fall off the tracks directly, but there's something about his description or her description of the beach and the murderer that goes on and on and on and on, and the 50 pages prior were just the most compelling thing you've ever read in your life, and then you're like, wow, I hope she leaves the beach soon, and then 10 pages later you're off the beach, and the compelling element is back. Or some published novels become completely derailed. I mean, I know that, but it's just so obvious when the screenplay becomes derailed, and I realized it. You were young. You were like 17 years old, 16 years old when you started down on Willow, and you quickly realized. I think within like the first 10 pages, you were like, oh, that happens. Oh, really? Oh, okay. And it was kind of like that process, and that is painful. That is painful. I have to admit that that's painful, but we have to find a way to well, you have to get it all out, right? I mean, we have to find a way to write where you find the inspiration, you find that element that just needs to be told, like it's, that's part of the problem. I think when it needs to be told like nothing. It's just like another entity is controlling your consciousness, and this entity is saying, okay, well, write this now, and now this is going to happen. And you're gonna make a complete analogy about these two characters and the way they're living, and it's going to be compelling, and there's this frightful, horrific essence of a nightmare that's becoming real. And I realize a lot of that sounds cliche, but to an audience when they're watching that, it's exhilarating. To a writer who's writing that, it's exhilarating. It's fucking. There's nothing like it. It's just, God, I gotta watch my language. There's nothing like it, and my boss is due. We're gonna have a meeting. I gotta clean this desk. I've got to spray. It smells like cat piss in here. Isn't that great? When you're a kid, you think you have all the time in the world, and it does take a certain amount of time, and you get to a certain age where you realize, wow, the human life is so short that you could literally waste it all on being distracted by one thing. Practically. I mean, it seems like that. It seems too close to that. And I think you've got to pay attention to the essentials. Exercise and meditation and eating right and sleeping right, like you didn't do last night. And get with the program. Yeah, well, I mean, get with the feeling. Get with the feeling. Get with the sensation. It doesn't have to be a militant thing. It should not be a militant thing. It's just, it's going to take your focus at least. And once you have that focus, it's always that one thing that goes, oh yeah, and then you're writing about it, and the power comes in you realizing the significance of what's being said because you're compelled. And that's important.